now, so I want to get started. Welcome to this evening's 8 p.m. Monday live show. Tonight I'm going to have a conversation about sexual desire. Are you lacking it? Is it gone? What's happened to it? And some things that we can do to actually help it so that we can get it kind of back. My name is Lori Falker. I'm a women's health nurse practitioner. I provide telemedicine for women with Women's Health on the Go, where telemedicine is a medical visit with a medical provider via video stream. And I can talk about lots of things: prescribe birth control, Plan B, and treat minimal, simple vaginal infections and stuff, and also talk about your medical needs that you may be having. So anybody who's here, please say hello so that I know that you're here. If you have any questions, please definitely post them below, and I might not get to them till the end of because I've got lots of stuff that I want to talk about, but I promise you that I will get to them. If there's not enough time at the end of the show, I will definitely respond to you after the show. So say hello if you're here. It would be great to hear from you, and let's get started. So I picked this subject because every week I get articles, I get emails about women's health research and up-to-date news on everything, and I got an article about lack of sexual desire in women, and it's actually got a medical term for it. It's called hypoactive sexual desire disorder, and I wanted to talk about it because there's lots of women out there that have this. 1 in 10 women will have this going on in their lives, and it's not really talked about. We see commercials for Viagra and about erectile dysfunction, but we never really talk about women and what's going on with them. So I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to get it out in the air. I want people to, if they're having problems, I want them to open up, and I want them to go to their healthcare provider to help them with it. So basically, the definition of hypoactive sexual desire disorder is basically a decrease or absence of sexual desire that actually interferes with your life, it interferes with how you feel, and it interferes with your partnership whoever you're with. There are many factors that can affect this. And it's a huge amount of things. One, our cycle. Now, as you know, we go through every month. You want to get pregnant. Whether you like it or not, your body wants to get pregnant. And we go through certain waves with hormones throughout our cycle. Typically, during ovulation, there's lots of things that your body's doing because it wants to get pregnant. And one of the things is that it stimulates you and it gets you in the mood, so you're actually horny. But then as we know, especially right before our period, there's times when we do not want anybody near us. So our menstrual cycle can affect us. Birth control can affect us. I joke around with my patients actually when they come to me. They'll be like, ever since I've taken this birth control, I don't want to have sex. And I always say, see, it's working. You're not having sex, so you're not getting pregnant. But really, in honesty, birth control can actually decrease your sex drive. It's a very common side effect, and it's got a side effect that's not commonly discussed with people, which I really think that it should be. But birth control. Postpartum time. Your hormones are going all over the place. You now have a new newborn. You're tired. You're just worn out. That's another time. If you've had a hysterectomy, even if you've just had your uterus removed and you still have your ovaries, there are women who actually talk about how they just don't still feel sexy, they've lost their desire. So even if you've had either everything removed, which if you've had your ovaries removed, then you go through what we call surgical menopause, or even if you just had your uterus removed, there are some women that their sex drive completely changes after that. And then there's, of course, the perimenopausal and the postmenopausal. Postmenopausal, we kind of, we have that lack of estrogen. But as I've discussed before in other talks, we have that 10 years prior to menopause. Menopause defined as 1 year after you have no longer have a period, but there's that 10 years before where we can have symptoms. We can have, last week I talked about vaginal dryness. We can also have decreased or complete lack of sexual drive, and that is a symptom of menopause that you can have up to 10 years before. There are medical conditions that can cause you to have lack of sexual drive. There's diabetes, there's heart disease, there's even arthritis because it's painful. There are prescription drugs. I mean that the birth control, but you have depression medications, you have blood pressure medications that can cause it. There's psychological disorders that can actually cause you to have lack or absence of sexual drive. Anxiety, depression, all those kind of things can do that. And then you have just the mind, depending on your relationship. Are you in a good relationship with your partner? Are you not happy with your partner? Maybe sometimes your partner has cheated on you, and although you kind of have reconciled, you still have that in the back of your mind, and you have a lack of desire because of that. Or you have a history of some kind of abuse. Any kind of abuse, whether it's sexual, verbal, or physical, that you've had in a relationship can affect the way that you feel with your sexual desire. You can have low self-esteem that can actually affect that as well. Or even if you're in a relationship and you have lack of communication. There's this great cartoon that I talk to my women about, and there's the one side of it, which is a picture with one knob, and that's a man. He needs one knob, turn it on, and he's good to go. That's all he needs. He needs a visual or a touch or something, and that's it. And then there's the other side where we have like 50 knobs on there, and we're a little bit more complicated. And if you don't have that open communication with your partner, then you might not feel the desire anymore to have sexual relations with them, unless you have the open communication to say, listen, buddy, I don't have one button. I have 50. Let's talk about how we got to get through them in order for me to be also sexually satisfied here. So if you have that lack of communication, then, that's going to also maybe hinder that. So that's basically the things that can cause the lack of desire. Now, it's important when you're having lack of desire, I believe, to talk to your medical provider about it, because of the fact that it might not just be, I don't feel like having sex. It could be you can have a medical condition, such I talked about, diabetes and heart disease, or you may be taking a medication that you don't even realize, but it's causing you to have this lack of desire. So I think that we need to start feeling really comfortable with talking to our providers about this and being open with it and saying, listen, I need some help here. Can I talk about what's going on? And, it's at fault for the providers as well. A lot of providers don't feel comfortable having this conversation. And I think that it's really important that we kind of open up that dialogue. I think it's really, really important. There's actually a screener. It's called a decreased sexual desire screener. And I would even suggest go online, look it up. I'll even put a link down below when I'm all done. But it's such a simple questionnaire. It's like one page. It's like 5 questions. It's very easy to do. And you know what? And even if you do it, you download it, you tick it off, and you go to your provider and say, hey, listen, I took this and I'm having an issue. Can we talk about this? I think that it's really important to open it up, the conversation about it, because we don't talk about it. I get crazy. I look at the TV. Why do we know so much about Viagra and erectile dysfunction? What about us women? Come on. This is happening to us as well, and we need to know about that. There was actually a study done. Well, I'm not sure it was a study. It was a questionnaire. And they asked women, do you know about erectile dysfunction and Viagra versus, I'm sorry about that, the hypoactive sexual desire disorder, or there's a prescription drug that I'm going to talk about. It's called Addie. Only 9% of those women said that they even knew that there was actually a diagnosis for women as compared to men, where they and this questionnaire said 66% women knew. I personally believe it's a heck of a lot more than that. Yeah, that's just my thing, because Viagra's all over the TV. It's all over the place. They talk about it, but they don't talk about women's part of it. So, and I think that's really kind of important. So, talk about it. Everybody, let's talk about it. Let's get it all out there. Okay, so what can we do? What can we do if we have this? One, as I said, you need to talk to your healthcare provider. If you are found that, you go through everything and you don't have any medical problems, you're not taking any prescription drugs that may be interfering with that, you're not having any issues with your relationship, and it gets down to the point where you just have this disorder, then there is a prescription drug that you can get from a healthcare provider. It's called Addyi, Addyi. I call it Yaddy. I'm assuming that that's how they pronounce it. It was FDA approved in 2015. It was actually just like, I don't know if anybody knows, but Viagra was actually being researched for something completely different. And a happy side effect was men were aroused. Well, this is the same kind of thing that happened with this. This medication was actually being researched as an antidepressant medication. And they noticed that women started having happy increase in sexual desire, and that's how this medication got on the market for that. Apparently, it restores and rebalances your brain chemistry to increase sexual desire. How it happens, they don't know, but there's a lot of prescription drugs that they don't know how it does anything. That's a lot with antidepressant medications. They don't really know how they work. They just know that they work. So that's the same way with this medication. This medication is not an aphrodisiac. It's not something that you take and an hour later you're like, come on baby, let's go. It doesn't happen that way. It is something that you need to take over time. And it's only been approved for premenopausal women. Although I have read there's lots of medications out there that providers prescribe things for off-label use. It's not, the FDA has not approved of it, but we know that it does this, and people prescribe things like that all the time. So I have read where it's not FDA approved for the postmenopausal, but it actually does have beneficial effects with the postmenopausal women as well. The thing with this medication, though, is that it has side effects that are not the greatest. But that, again, is with most pharmaceutical drugs. The side effects are dizziness, hypotension, which is a drop in blood pressure, and it can be sudden, and also loss of consciousness or fainting. These side effects are really prevalent to the point where you have to get certified, and actually in order to prescribe this medication as a provider. I know I've had to get certified to prescribe this medication. It's a very simple process, but just no one can prescribe it, okay? Because the side effects are pretty, they're really there, and they're very prevalent, and they could be very dangerous. And one thing is that you cannot drink alcohol at all while you are taking this medication, because if you do that, it can enhance the drug in your system, which puts you at a higher risk of fainting, loss of consciousness, or sudden drop in blood pressure. So it's definitely it's a drug that it's only for certain people. There's lots of, like I said, there's different medical conditions you can't take it. If you're taking certain medications, sometimes when we take medications, they interact with other medications, and it may either enhance that drug that you're taking, or it actually may decrease the effect of that drug. With this drug, with Addyi, there are drugs such as birth control pills, Tagamet, which is used for stomach ulcers, people take for that, Zantac, which people take for heartburn, and Prozac, which is an antidepressant medication. Those kind of medications can actually enhance the effects of the Addy, which then puts you at a higher risk of having this drop in blood pressure or losing loss of consciousness. So that's the medication in a nutshell. Some other things that you can get for a prescription is if you're postmenopausal, there is getting hormone replacement therapy, because when you have that lack of estrogen, that's another way that you are losing your sex drive, so you can take hormone replacement therapy. And then there is testosterone. This is another drug that's not quote-unquote FDA approved for decreased sexual drive, but there are a lot of providers that prescribe it off-label use. The problem with it is that they have a couple of long-term effects that are not the greatest, such as when you take testosterone. So men and women both have testosterone. Women, we have testosterone, but we have nowhere near the amount of testosterone that men have. And if you think about it, if you're taking testosterone and your level starts increasing, what's going to happen? You're going to start getting hair on places where you probably don't want to, like on your face, like on your belly as well. You are going to start having some masculinization, deep voice, you get a little extra abdominal back package, we'll call it. And then also you have the risk of cardiovascular disease and liver disease. So I know that I've had some patients who really have wanted it. We've done like a little tiny amount of cream around the genital area, and I never actually really heard if it helped a lot. It's one of those things, does testosterone really help with your sexual drive? I don't know. It's one of those kind of things that it may work for some and it may not work for others, and there's no actual real research that shows that it does. So prescription-wise, that's kind of about that. And so I want to now talk about things that we can do for ourselves, and then also some natural remedies that we can take. Hold on, I see somebody. So I want to say I see some people are on. I see Dave. I see Yolanda. Oh, Yolanda, how are you? I hope all is well where you are. If you have any questions, please make sure that you, I can't seem to see my comments, unfortunately. I keep putting for my comments, but, oh! Hi, James, how are you? Thank you for watching. And there's Dave as well. So if you have any questions at any time, please don't hesitate to put them on the bottom. I will get to them at the end of the show. And if I don't have time to get to them, because if the time ends, I will definitely post down below your answer to any questions. All right, so what can we do naturally for this? There's lots of little things that we can do. One thing is that we think about our pelvic region. We got to get the blood flow getting to that area, and there's lots of things that we can do to do that. One, take belly dancing lessons, or exercise, exercise like bicycling, walking, taking Tai Chi as well is supposed to help. You want to move the energy to that pelvic region. And also just even exercising every day is also really healthy for you. Read or watch, read books that are loving and sexual connection, watch movies that kind of put you in the mood, Harlequin romance books, or a couple of years ago, 50 Shades of Grey, it like boosted, it was like, it was so big out there. Those are the kind of things, if you keep reading those are going to stimulate your mind and your body to get into the mood. So definitely do those. And what about exploring yourself? A lot of people don't know what's going on down there. There's people that come to me all the time and they started exploring, which I think is wonderful, and I always tell them how wonderful that is. But sometimes they come to me, one of the most common things that people come to me with is that, they finally try and explore themselves. They, put their fingers aside and they're like, oh my God, there's a lump in there. What's going on? And I'd say 99% of the time they're feeling their cervix. If you feel comfortable enough to explore, and if you put your finger in as far as you can, if you feel something that feels exactly like your nose, that is your cervix. So definitely exploring yourself, getting a vibrator, exploring that way as well. All these things are going to help get you stimulated, get your body stimulated, get the flow and energy flowing in your pelvic region. So these are all wonderful things that you can do. Of course, if you smoke cigarettes, stop smoking cigarettes, because that can actually be no good. Smoking cigarettes is not good for a lot of things, but this is one of them. And also, if you drink excessive amount of alcohol, that actually decreases your sex drive and your ability. It causes vaginal dryness, and it just is not good. So decreasing your alcohol intake, if you have like a drink or two, that's fine, but if you're excessively drinking, that's not going to help your sex drive either. If you're having trouble with your relationship as well, I definitely always recommend either counseling, one for yourself, couples counseling, and then there's sex therapists. Always finding someone that you can be open and you can talk to about these things that are going on. Now, the next part that I'm going to go into is herbal remedies. Now, as I do, I've told you about pharmaceutical stuff, which, I know that you're going to have to go to a medical provider and get, you're going to need to go to a medical provider to get that prescription, so you'll be talking to someone. When I always recommend herbal remedies, I always suggest, this is for educational purposes, okay? Always suggest you do your own research, and you also talk to someone that is knowledgeable with herbal medicine. There's herbalists if you want to find a local herbalist. I have knowledge with herbs as well. Herbs need to be honored and they need to be respected. I probably will explain this every time that I do a talk. Pharmaceuticals, herbal medicine. Herbal medicine was what we originally were using to take care of ourselves. And then pharmaceuticals came along. And basically what pharmaceuticals are is, if you take a plant, the synergy of a plant, it has all these chemical compounds to it that work together to work in your body, and they know how to process it, they know how to absorb it, and everything appropriately. What they did is they did research and they found this compound and said, oh, wait a minute, this chemical component here decreases blood pressure. Okay, so let's take it and let's make a pill, and we'll, there's a pharmaceutical, okay? You have a lot of side effects from this because the body doesn't know how to just process this one little compound. But the herb knows how to process in our body, because it works together to make sure that it's processed in our body properly. So when there are herbs that interact with drugs, interact with certain medical, if you have high blood pressure and you take a certain medication, maybe it'll make your blood pressure higher. So always honor herbs and what they do, and make sure that you do your own research. Make sure where you talk to someone that is certified and knowledgeable in herbal medicine, okay? So, oat straw. Oat straw is a wonderful herb, also oatmeal. Or you can do oat straw herbal infusions, which are very strong teas. Oat straw increases your testosterone and increases your sexual drive. It is wonderful. Then there is ginkgo. Ginkgo is actually good for men and women. A lot of these things can be used for both men and women. With ginkgo, you can get some tincture of it, and you can take a dropper full of it before you get frisky, and it will help increase the blood flow, increase lubrication, and it'll enhance your sexual desire and your sexual function as well. So that's another great one. Maca. A lot of people know maca. If you are familiar with herbs, a lot of people know about maca because it actually helps with infertility, but it's also another great one that also enhances your sexual desire and performance. So that's another one, great one. Yohimbe, Yohimbe. is another one that's great for men and for women. It increases your stamina, it heightens your sensation, and you have a greater sexual desire. That's another great one. Damania. This is another great herb. Either a cup of them. You can do the leaf infusion, you can do like a tea of it, or you can do a tincture of it. It improves your interest. It is more an aphrodisiac kind of herb. The Aztecs started using this over 300 years ago for sexual desire. So definitely check that one out. Tribulus is another one that both men and women can do, and it increases your libido and your performance. It's great stuff. And there's also a supplement, it's called Zestra, Zestra. It's actually like an essential, it's like an oil extract that women actually put in the vaginal area, around their clitoris and around their vaginal area. And within 3 to 5 minutes, you will definitely start feeling aroused. You'll feel, when you have sexual relations, it'll be more pleasurable. And it lasts up to like 45 minutes, which is, it's a pretty long time. If you're having sex for more than 45 minutes, kudos to you. That's awesome. So, and then there's the last one, which could be a little controversial because it's not technically legal in most states, but I'm going to say it here. So for those of people who are in a state where marijuana is legal, definitely, taking a couple of hits of that before you're going to engage in sexual relations, or even taking a one drink or something. You don't want to drink too much alcohol because then you're going to have the opposite effect. But sometimes when we just take a little something, then that can actually help us with our sexual performance and our desires, and for us to feel comfortable and actually enjoy the ride, as we can call it. So that is it for a very short. I tried to get as much as I could in there. I actually took notes before because I wanted to make sure that I said as much as I could, because I know that sometimes I forget things when we're doing these live feeds. Sometimes you're trying to remember everything that you want to say. So I do hope that everyone enjoyed this. If anybody has any questions, even in the after, if you're watching this after, please post them down below. I'll be more than willing to answer them and help you out in any way that I can. Thank you so much to everybody who joined on. Thank you, James, Dave. Thank you for everyone else that came out to see me tonight. I really, really appreciate it. Remember, I am going to be here every Monday night at 8 p.m. I think next week I'm going to talk about herpes because that's a huge hot topic. I've got lots of questions and lots of answers to those questions. Remember, womenshealthonthego.com. If you haven't signed up for my newsletter, please do. You get a free pamphlet. It's a great pamphlet. It tells you lots of great things to do to have a healthy and happy vagina. Just go to www.womenshealthonthego.com/subscribe and you will instantly get access to that pamphlet. And thank you again so much for joining me tonight. I really, really appreciate it. And remember, women's health matters. Our lives matter. Let's take control and let's take care of ourselves, everyone. Thank you very much and have a great evening. Bye-bye.